Okay, so for this, we're going to focus on the wave spawner. What I decided to do with this is utilize a wave group. So with this, we could determine our enemy class, quantity, spawn delay, and our difficulty modifier. And how that gets called is over here. So after this is the wave spawner, after we've referenced the player, we then collect all of the our spawners. And here's our ref player here. So this is what it's doing first, and then it's binding on upgrade selected. So what this here is, after you've chosen an upgrade, then it starts the new wave. So when the new wave happens, that's when we do the ref spawners. So we collect every spawner that we have in the level, and then we increase the current wave, and we add to our wave map, or we find that wave map in here. So this is predetermined. So on wave 1, we have the wave groups, and it's built of a struct of the S wave group, which is just an array of the struct. So here we have is our enemy, how many quantity there is, the spawn delay, and the difficulty modifier. Since we only have one enemy, it's hard to have a differentiator at the moment, but we do plan on adding ranged enemies, and then enemies with more tank ability, and then more movement. And then we can play around with these as well, so we can change their spawn quantity, the time between spawns, and then also how difficult they are to deal with. And then they would use the parent class of BPC enemy, allowing us to have variation of the enemies that we deal with. So that's the wave class, and it goes all the way up to wave 10. So when that happens, it breaks the wave after it finds the wave information and sets that as the enemies. Then we do check wave group. If there's no wave remaining, then we do achieve victory. You've beaten the game. So yeah, we'll move to check wave group here. This is where we check the wavelength. So with this, we determine if enemy's length is greater than 0. True. Okay, there's a group remaining. So then we move on, and with the waves remaining, I just realized I need to actually clear that. But we set a delay. What the delay does is that allows time for information to actually pass through. So we get index 0 on the enemies, basically the first wave group, and then we get their class. We determine their spawns, the delay between spawns, and the difficulty modifier that they are fed, with another delay on the next tick, allowing this information to settle, and then we remove that from the enemy index at 0. So we remove that group out, leaving room for another group. And we start the wave counter. So what this does is up here. Yeah, so the start wave counter here does a spawn delay, and that's what we set down here. The spawn delay, which is the time between spawns. It sets the timer handle, and then it clears that handle every time that an enemy is spawned, and then it calls spawn enemy. And what that does is that checks to see if there's spawns remaining. If there is spawns remaining, it decreases that spawn count, and it spawns the enemy class that again was set up here. Checks if it's valid. If it's valid, then it updates the starting stats with a difficulty modifier. And then it also binds the event to if the enemy has died. It adds to the enemies remaining. And if it's not valid, it adds to the spawns remaining. So we have to make sure that these spawns actually go through. Otherwise, we run out of enemies much faster than intended. And then we start the wave counter again. So again, does the spawn delay. All this really does is just checks the timer between enemy spawns until there's no spawns remaining. Every time an enemy dies, it checks the enemies remaining until there's none. As soon as there's 0 or less for whatever reason, it basically says, hey, the player can level up, which restarts the loop back up here and allows an upgrade selection. And that's how the new wave is started.